Hello, I'm bobblehead Drew Carey. I love baseball, especially Cleveland Indians baseball. Haven't gotten to hear this man, Vin Scully, call too many Indians games, and it's because he does the big games. That's what he talks about on this episode later that aired on May 6th, 1991. He starts off really talking about sportscasters' ethic and style, and he learned the class version from Red Barber. And then he and Costas go into talking about one of the greatest moments of baseball history, Bobby Thompson's home run, and it might be just as famous for the radio call of the Giants win the pennant, the Giants win the pennant, and so emotional, as opposed to Scully's more stoic style. He recounts calling Kirk Gibson's home run in the 88 World Series being the most emotional call of his career and thus inappropriate, and calling Henry Aaron's home run breaking Babe Ruth's record, Bill Buckner through the knees at the World Series in 86, Kofax's 65 perfect game, and then getting into a political hoopla with the governor of Missouri over a call in the 87 World Series with the Cardinals. And what a class act Vin Scully was. As you'll hear at the end of this episode, they recorded more, and that episode's already on my YouTube channel, so take a gander. Again, this is Bobblehead Drew Carey. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for staying up later. We continue from Los Angeles, the stronghold of this man, Vin Scully, in his 42nd year as the voice of first the Brooklyn, now the Los Angeles Dodgers. During that course of time, he's called 12 World Series. He's a member of baseball's Hall of Fame. At this stage, after 42 years, why does it still excite you?
I think because I love the game so much, Bob, that I really relate to it. And like anyone else, there are days when I would rather not be there. But the presence of a crowd, the electricity generated by the crowd does something to me, and so I stay on a high.
I read somewhere that when you were 8 or 9 years old and in a Catholic school in the Bronx, you wrote an essay, "I want to be a sports announcer," and the nuns were either shocked or appalled or both.
Well, they were just confused. You have to remember that we're talking about shortly after the discovery of fire. You know, there just weren't there weren't sports announcers around. Seems to me the only thing that you could get on the radio was a college football game on a Saturday. I think that's about all. And so where all the little boys in class wanted to be priests and doctors and lawyers and firemen and policemen, and the girls wanted to be nurses and nuns and mothers and teachers. And this kid says, "I want to be a sports announcer." Now today, you'd say, well, of course, because every time you turn on the dial, there's somebody doing a sporting event, but not in those days. So it was really surprising.
Because we only have half an hour, we're going to go to the fast forward.
Oh, sure.
Through your time in the service, through your time at Fordham, and all of a sudden, as a young man, very early 20s, you're in the Dodger booth at Ebbets Field,
right,
alongside Red Barber. What do you recall of your first broadcast?
I was very frightened. My first broadcast that I remember was in spring training, and I was sitting next to Red, and a Dodger hit into a triple play. It was an exhibition game, admittedly so, but Red handled it with such aplomb, so calmly, so accurately, that I went back to the room thinking, oh my gosh, I will never be able to do that. So for a year or so, I think I was just totally numb, sitting there, not only alongside Red, but between Red and a fellow named Connie Desmond, who was an absolute love of a guy. The chemistry in Brooklyn in those days, Red was kind of the father image, Connie was the older brother, and I was the kid off the streets, and it was a great mix.
What part of Red Barber do you carry with you as a professional, even to this day?
I think that first word is the most important, professional. I don't go into the booth thinking of one-liners. I don't think of anything except I want to be as prepared as humanly possible and then get it off.
Vaughn sort of spread eagles there in the box for left-handed hitter. Plants his rear foot just as close to the catch as he can get it, and his forward foot is pointed right down toward the first baseman, who in this case, the American League, is the fine veteran Jimmy Fox.
Sandy backs off, mops his forehead, runs his left index finger along his forehead, dries it off on his left pants leg.
I remember reading a line years and years ago, Sir Laurence Olivier, and he was being interviewed, and someone said, what does it take to be a great actor? And he thought about it a while, and he said, it takes the humility to prepare and the confidence to bring it off. And I know that when it comes to doing an event, I am terrified of looking like a horse's fanny. So I prepare out of fear, and then I hope to get all those things across.
As a fellow professional, to me, the thing that has always been most amazing about you, and people might be surprised to hear me say this because they cite your eloquence, they cite your knowledge of the game, but to me, it's a Wednesday night in August in Houston with both teams maybe in a down year, 16 games out of first, and I happen to be in L.A. driving in the car, and I hear virtually the same Vin Scully, with some modifications for the circumstances, but the same Vin Scully in terms of professionalism that I hear on the World Series.
I think that goes back to the training from Red, the attitude, if you will, that you're not going to the ballpark to enjoy the game. You're not going to the ballpark to holler and scream and root. You're going to the ballpark to work, and to work as best as you possibly can, whether it's the World Series or a very quiet afternoon in the great indoors of Houston.
If someone said, Vin, take 3 or 4 Dodger moments, not network television moments, but Dodger moments, and they go in a Vin Scully broadcasting time capsule, what short list would you give them?
It would be hard. Dick Sisler hit a home run in the 10th inning to beat the Dodgers, the last game of the year. That was a most exciting time.
It's 1950, right?
50. Bobby Thompson's home run in 51, and there were so many asides to that home run. I could look down on members of the Dodger family, and I won't embarrass them now, but I can see certain things that happened as that ball reached the seats. And then right on through all the great individual games, the sweep of the Yankees out here. There's just so many.
How about the home run by Thompson from a Dodger perspective? In the minds of fans, and in the imaginations, more importantly, of fans not even born on October 3rd, 1951, Russ Hodges' call is what it's all about, and the Giants' exhilaration is what it's all about. But meanwhile, there was a Dodger broadcast, too.
Yes, and Russ and I were very good friends, and I loved Russ. We used to harmonize a lot together with Ernie Harwell. And
barbershop quartet
style? That's
style?
exactly right. Shine on me in the morning. But the thing that I thought later, I would not have wanted to be remembered for that call of Bobby Thompson's home run. Admittedly, it's a great call, but to me, Russ kind of lost it. I mean, he just went, would much rather have done probably what Red did, which was call the home run and shut up.
And yet for Russ Hodges, it seemed right.
Oh,
when
absolutely.
I hear that, and I've probably heard it 100 times, I don't think the man is hysterical as in unprofessional. I think this is the moment of this guy's life, and in his way, in a way that's right for him, he's equal to this moment. If I heard Vin Scully or Red Barber in that state, though, I would think the world had stopped spinning on its axis.
Well, just to give you an idea, I guess Kirk Gibson's home run in the World Series in '88, there is this tone of disbelief on the call of the fly ball, and then there's silence. I have learned a long time ago that there is no way that my words can adequately describe the emotion better than sitting back and listening to the crowd roar. Do you remember when, no, you wouldn't remember, Jack Benny was doing a radio show, and he was being held up in those naive, happy days, and the man with the gun said, your money or your life, and there was a pause. And then Benny said, I'm thinking, and the crowd, it's the longest laugh in radio history, I think. Well, I have tried to have the longest crowd noise in television history and radio. When Henry Aaron hit his momentous home run, I'll bet you no one has ever let the crowd roar as long as I did when he hit the home run. I got up and put the microphone down because it was a headset. I went back and poured a cup of coffee and some cream and sugar because I had nothing else to say. that was the home run. And everyone in this world knew it broke Ruth's record. And the crowd was screaming and rockets were going off. What am I going to say? The crowd's excited. So I said nothing.
How much of a fan can you allow yourself to be? It works in some settings for other great announcers.
Sure.
It works for Harry Carey. To a lesser extent, it works for Jack Buck, who kind of splits the difference between you and Harry. It worked for Bob Prince in Pittsburgh.
I'm not a fan. Not even that much of a fan. Now, sure, I am paid by the Dodgers. I am an employee. I am insured by them. I have an umbrella coverage, and I would like to see them win. I really would. But when we're on the air, I try as hard as I can not to root. I learned a long time ago that I did not want to see things like a fan. A fan sees what he wants to see. So in the ninth inning, if a hitter comes up down by a run and he hits a fly ball, well, the fan wants a home run. He goes crazy, but it's only a fly ball. He has seen it with his heart. I can't afford that. I have to see it with my eyes.
Your hands feel colder when you leave your home. Don't your eyes look older when you make your own? Understand
You've called thousands of ball games, and so even the most wondrous events scarcely can surprise you. They may thrill you, but they're not going to surprise you because you've seen almost everything. But one time that I heard, I think, genuine shock in your voice was in the 6th game of the '86 World Series.
The ball with Buckner?
I could hear in your voice the slightest tremble. It's by Buckner, behind the bag. It's through Buckner. Here comes Knight. And your voice just wobbled a little, and the Mets win it. And even you were overtaken.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And overcome.
Again, you started saying that, and I actually could feel goosebumps. Now, I know that might sound corny, but it's true. I react that way. And every now and then, there will be a play where the crowd, it is so shocking, so exciting, so wondrous, so terrible for the individual involved or whatever, that it gets you. And I'm fighting it as hard as I can, but that much of it comes out. Oh, sure.
Kofax's perfect game in 1965
I guess, yeah.
Against the Cubs. What do you recall of that night?
Not much. The other pitcher was a wonderful left-hander named Bob Hendley, and people forget he pitched a one-hitter.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. I think the biggest thing that I will remember, and this is kind of inside, every time I've ever broadcast a no-hitter, and I think it's 13 or 14 of them, I forget. But every time I broadcast it, whether you're pitching it or a Dodger is pitching it, doesn't make any difference. When we come to the 9th inning, the break, I always have the engineer, in the old days, call the control room and say, record the 9th inning. And then if the fellow pitches the no-hitter, we happily give him the tape, say congratulations, and 25 years from now you'll enjoy listening to it. And I always date it. So when the 9th inning starts, just to help the fellow, I'll say, and so on this July 23rd, 1956, so-and-so walks out to the mound for his date, whatever. Now, I had done for Sandy 3 previous no-hitters. and I had dated every one of them. And now it's the 9th inning, and as usual, I dated it again. Only this time, and don't ask me why, just as a change of pace, for me and for Sandy, I wasn't really thinking of the listener. I started to use the time. Now, if there's one thing that doesn't mean a thing, is time to baseball, because now there's no longer curfews and all that stuff. And so I started in, and at 9:06 p.m. in the city of Los Angeles, Sandy Kofax strides to the mound. But I'm thinking, gee, he's really going to get a kick out of this. 30 years from now, he'll know the exact minute, see? When it was all over, everyone was thrilled for him that he had pitched a perfect game. But the thing that they were writing in the papers, great drama, great theater, Scully went the extra mile by giving the time. And I had no idea of doing it for drama. I was just doing it so that Sandy would know exactly what time it was when he did it. That's what I remember more than the outs and the fly balls and all the other stuff.
In 1987, the Giants were playing the Cardinals in the playoffs, and you're calling it on NBC. And there was a ground rule double situation that was disputed, and you made an error because you thought the fan had reached over and interfered with the ball, whereas actually he'd caught it up here, and it wouldn't have mattered if the seat had been empty. It had no effect on the play. All right, so you made a mistake. And Cardinal fans were up in arms, but those Cardinal fans included the governor of Missouri.
Yeah, which really shocked me. The next morning, wherever we were staying in Clayton, and I got up, and the light was blinking, and the operator said, you've had the governor's call 3 times, and I laughed. I'm just not in the habit of getting calls from governors, you know. And she said, no, really, it's the governor. I said, oh, well, gosh, I'll return the call. So I returned the call. And he started in about the sovereign state of Missouri and the honesty of the St. Louis fans. And so I didn't know what he was talking about. And I said, Governor, are you running for president? What are we doing here? See? And meanwhile, he was holding a press conference. And I was a little shocked about that because I thought, gee, I mean, how could a governor take time out to try and ride my poor back? I've made a mistake, and I know I have. So I was talking to a very distinguished friend, and I said, gosh, I'm overwhelmed. And this man, very knowledgeable, brilliant writer, commentator of politics and world affairs, and he said, remember, to err is human, to forgive divine, to exploit political. And I thought, wow, I've been exploited by the governor of a state, and I'll never forgive him for that. I apologize to the fans. The governor rode that as hard as he could in the papers, and about maybe the next day, anyway, he came up, he sent an aide up to the booth. He wanted to come on the air and give me a proclamation on camera, full network, about Missouri. And I thought, that's the cheapest thing I've ever heard of. You know? And he's the governor of a great state. And as I say, he gave me the aid, said, well, the governor wants you to have this. And this is honest to God's truth. He gave me a little, like a key ring for my keys, you know, with the state seal and his autograph on the back of it. And I thought, well, I'll never forget that. So I'll remember him a long time.
Well, after this, I'll be going back home to St. Louis, where I'm sure they'll discover several heretofore obscure zoning ordinances.
Yeah,
I'll have to rework my house, and my taxes will be audited.
I'm sorry you brought it up.
How about the one about Gordon McClendon, who was a deep-voiced broadcaster, I think, on the Liberty Network in the 40s and 50s?
Called the Old Scotchman. And we were in a nearby booth, and we were doing a Dodger-Braves game. And it was the bottom of the 9th inning, and the score was tied, and the Braves had a runner at third and 1 out. And the batter hit a long fly ball, which was caught, and Gordon thought that was the 3rd out. But meanwhile, the runner tagged at third and scored, and the Braves won the game. So he said, well, we're going into extra innings. We'll be back right after this commercial. Well, when he came back from the commercial, people were all walking out on the field. And now he's trying desperately to figure out, why are these people walking on the field if it's an extra inning game? So he said, I know what it is. He said, it's really nice. He said, they're allowing the people in the bleachers for extra innings. They can come in and sit in the grandstand. You can see owners do that, right? But he's desperately, and then he's saying, well, maybe if there's threat of rain and they're going to let the people come in, and he's going on. And meanwhile, we've all left. We're in the press room, and he finally comes in a state of shock, and he said, What happened? Oh, he also said, oh, I know what it is. The Dodgers have to catch a train. Because the poor guy was, oh, what a nightmare. Anyway, he finally came into the press room and he said, what happened? Why did you leave with the game? So I said, well, that was only the second out and the winning run scored. Oh, my gosh, he said. So, okay, the next day he came on the air and he said, hi, everybody, this is Gordon McClendon, the old Scotsman. He said, you probably didn't expect me back here today. And he said, I wouldn't be back here today, but Daddy owns the network. Which is, you gotta love him. I mean, you gotta love him for that. But what a terrifying thing to go through. Gee whiz.
Accommodations furnished by the Universal City Hilton and Towers. Make your next stay in Los Angeles a memorable one with our spacious rooms, international cuisine, and the attention of a friendly, experienced staff.
Our time has run out for tonight, but we're not going to let Vin Scully get away. We'll tape another show and play it a little bit later in the baseball season. Hope to see you then, and until tomorrow night, see you later.